This is not a surprise. We expected this. I didn't think anyone was going to offer Eli Manning the kind of contract that would make him leave the Giants and feel that he was going to be the guy wire to wire in 2020. That would take $20 million or more. I didn't think that was coming. He didn't think that was coming. He's not interested in changing teams. No one's out there interested in making him their guy for this year. So he retires.
That's right. NFL legend. And, it is time for Eli to retire. And I'm glad he is retiring. And I say that, I say that selfishly, but only because out of respect, where I just go, man, Eli Manning's a giant. That's what he is.
I'm still in Miami, Chris. I went to the game, and it was awesome. I'm sure it was awesome watching it on TV, and it was awesome to be home, and I'll be home later today. But I wasn't missing this one. This was one of the best ones. I wasn't sure it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be a great fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden it was.
Yeah, well, it was the whole spectacle of the Super Bowl, first off, was special.
After the second interception, Mahomes was 8 of 13 for 114 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, a 129.5 passer rating. Forgetting about that performance that did have him, and you mentioned it, I mentioned it last hour on radio, he would have been the GOAT in a bad way.
Yeah.
If that doesn't turn around with those 2 interceptions, and he just forgot about it, and he moved forward, and he got it done. And as you mentioned, came back from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter. That's only happened 3 times in a Super Bowl, Chris, and 2 of the times Kyle Shanahan was calling the plays on offense. With the coronavirus here in the United States, clearly spreading, who knows how long it's actually been here, there will be an impact on the sports world sooner or later, and probably much, much sooner. The NFL told me on Sunday that it's closely monitoring developments and has been in contact with the World Health Organization, CDC, NFLPA, medical experts, and those at the Duke Infection Control Outreach Network program for infection prevention. That is one hell of a mouthful. But they're going to continue to look at it throughout the offseason. Here's the thing. The draft is 51 days away. I don't know what's going to happen with this. Nobody knows what's going to happen with this. And I have not even the shred of qualification to wonder what may happen. The end result, no one is going anywhere for the draft. Everyone will be at home. A virtual draft announcement made by Commissioner Roger Goodell yesterday in a memo sent to all teams. In response to developing conditions and the advice of medical and public health experts, clubs have been advised to prepare to conduct the 2020 draft entirely outside of their facilities and in a fully virtual format, with club personnel in separate locations and able to communicate with one another and draft headquarters by phone or internet. We want all NFL personnel to comply with government directives and to model safe and appropriate health practices. The big news, obviously, is the Vikings signing a new long snapper. No, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers landing #Tommy from the New England Patriots. It came down to the Buccaneers and the Chargers. Brady chose the Buccaneers. And, it's been a combination of the Patriots saying goodbye with billboards all around the New England area, but it's also been a hello by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What can you want, Patriots fans? More than 20 years and 6 Super Bowls with one guy. It ain't going to last forever. He's playing 3 years max anyway, and who knows what kind of skills he has now in comparison to what they were. But if somebody is upset, who should they be blaming, Chris?
Well, to me, you're right. I mean, first off, it's been the greatest showing we've ever seen between quarterback and head coach. So let's all just appreciate that before we start blaming, one guy or the other. And I understand that's the business we're in. I think, okay, if you're going to make me blame one guy, I'd probably put a little more blame on Bill Belichick, but I don't necessarily sit here and go, all of it goes on him. I would go like 52 Belichick, 48 Brady. I think Brady deserves some of this as well. I think Brady unrealistically is asking for, respect and wants to enjoy his job. And that's just not in the DNA of a guy like Bill Belichick. He's always the general. It doesn't matter how many Super Bowls you've won. He's always looking for the next one.
Receiver DeAndre Hopkins thought to be available in trade. Chris, I had heard last year that one of the sticking points between Bill O'Brien, the coach of the Texans, and Brian Gaine, the former GM, was that O'Brien wanted to trade Hopkins, and Gaine's position was, like the rest of us, are you crazy? Well, now with Gaine not there, Hopkins on his way to Arizona, and the Texans picking up David Johnson. The Texans also giving up a second-round pick
Wait, the Cardinals give up the second-round pick. The two teams flip-flop fourth-round picks. Your reaction to the Texans pulling the plug on one of the best receivers in football?
Well, I've heard you say, that before about the things you had heard last year. I heard the rumors out there that people thought DeAndre Hopkins might be on the trading block. I really did not think it was going to happen. I really did not. Now, I do think it's kind of a win-win as far as X's and O's are considered for each team. I do. I mean, the Texans have a huge need at the running back position. David Johnson really fills two roles in one, because he is a phenomenal pass-catching back, which makes him a first and second down between the tackles type runner, but then also can do the things we've seen out of New England running backs for years, right? Because Billy O'Brien, that's the offense he runs. Deion Lewis, James White, whatever. David Johnson is like a slot receiver when it comes to the pass game. So I'm sure they looked at it like that.
The core message, not what you want to think the message is, the core message of the treatment of African Americans and people of color by police, we're seeing the consequences.
Yeah, it's still a
of
relevant
not having that
conversation.
addressed. Here's what happened. If George Floyd doesn't get murdered last week, we're not going through any of this stuff right now.
Yeah. No,
I mean, agreed. Not that would have been. Look, there's still a problem that needed to be addressed, and maybe we were just one more death away from it exploding. But that's the point. It's the buildup of years and years and years of this kind of thing, and this was the one that provided the tipping point, and Kaepernick was trying to get our attention to it before it hit the tipping point 4 years ago, Chris.
Well, yeah, he was, and sadly enough, it's a very relevant conversation still, and we see it a few times a year at least. So, yes, I mean, what Colin Kaepernick was fighting for, Mike, you and I have talked about this a million times. We're all in, we're in the fight with him. There's no doubt. I mean, we support everything that he stood for. I've talked about it on the show many a times before, too, just my experience as being a quarterback in the NFL. Listen, I've seen some of these social injustices in person and things like that. They are real. It is very commonplace in our country.
Just 2 days ago, there was one player who had exercised the privilege to opt out of the 2020 season as a concession to the pandemic and the concerns that players have, the health issues they may have, the family issues they may have. And it was one guy. And there were people around the league who were speculating and estimating as of Monday that the ultimate total of players who opt out would be in the single digits. Well, as of right now, there's more than 25 who have opted out, Chris, and it's been one after another, after another, after another, and a bunch of Patriots are out.
It's serious. I mean, the fact that we don't even want to see the replay, no TV station wants to show you, it tells you how bad it was. His leg collapsed. I am scared. He is a guy that's predicated on movement and doing those things. And Mike Brown, Zach Taylor with that talk, Mike Brown's got to be so pissed off. The rule of the year was just to get through the year with Joe Burrow healthy. And they flirted with danger all year long in that category.
It's a shame for Dak Prescott. I really feel for the guy. I really do. I can't imagine. I really can't. And, you're just in a big year of his career. We don't know how serious. We know the injury's serious. I just hope it's not any more serious than what we think.
Ligaments down there.
Yeah, right. That's what I worry about.
Right?
That's what I worry about.
Guy?
Yep.
Because it's not like he's mobile, but he certainly uses his legs and uses his power.
That's
a very
big
powerful
thing.
Quarterback.
Exactly. Well, that's what got him hurt. It's the power, right? He's got a DB on him, all right? And he's so big and strong that most quarterbacks will just crumble and go down and be like, oh, I give up, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of like, I think I can throw you off me and keep running.
I was saying there weren't a lot of days when I didn't think it was going to happen. But you just kind of keep pushing through, and I always felt like when I had my darkest moments, there was always something around the corner that happened that I just kept kind of plugging along, and all of a sudden I made a big gain or a big step or something clicked, and then I'd kind of keep marching and I felt like it would repeat itself, and all of a sudden, then I'd make another jump, and for me, obviously the biggest ones have been the last 6-8 weeks, just getting out on the field and really doing it and knowing that I can and doing it consistently.
It was a moment. I just wish that the stadium had been full so he could receive the proper gratitude and appreciation for the inspiration that he's provided in coming back from arguably the worst injury we've ever seen, all those surgeries, infection that nearly claimed his leg and his life. and he never gave up. His family in attendance. Imagine what they've gone through, constantly worrying about when is everything going to be the same again? When's Dad going to be the same? Is Dad ever going to be the same? Is Dad going to live? Just a great story and an inspiration to anyone who needs a lift at any time, because he's been through it worse than anyone has been through it. Hey, let me tell you, I hope to never be in that position, but I would pull that damn bell off the wall if I ever got to the end of that kind of a journey. And anyway, it was great to see that. And here's hoping that it is the end of the journey. You know, you never know with something like this, but the treatment's over, and he goes forward, and he barely missed a beat, and his team is a half game out of first place in the NFC East, which sounds a hell of a lot better than saying 2-5.
That just gives me chills, Mike. And you go back and you think about yesterday and how hard Washington played and how hard Dallas didn't play. And they almost looked like they quit. And I kept thinking about that, thinking, if you're Washington, how do you quit on this head coach? I mean, what he's gone through, missing practice, missing some meetings, and just gutting it out, having IVs at halftime of games to keep going.
Murray is unbelievable, and he just showed it on that freaking play once again. Every quarterback in football gets sacked there where he was. I mean, basically, you know, other than maybe Lamar, maybe Josh Allen can get out of there. But Mario Addison, the rush, they did a good job for the most part all day long, kind of containing him as far as when it was a pass play and he had to scramble and extend plays. But he's just so elusive and strong, and his speed to the edge and then the setup to throw it. And when it left his hands and I saw it was Hopkins, and I went, oh man, at first it was just him and two guys. I was like, you can ask the guys in the viewing room yesterday. I went, oh man.
Quite honestly, you know, we're not where we want to be as an offense. We know that. And you guys have heard me say this a lot around here in the 5 years that I've been here, and it's never about one person. And, you know, we won a championship a couple years ago with a group of men, and it's never about one guy.
He's out of time. That's it. They got to see what Jalen Hurts can do. Congratulations, Jalen Hurts. You get to do it against the Saints defense.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah. Whoopity-doo. You get to play the hottest defense in the game right now. Who's been kicking everybody's butt. But maybe that's part of the reasoning, too. Maybe that's where, you know, Doug Peterson looks at it and goes, hey, the stuff we've been doing and, you know, the offensive attack we've been approaching each game with and the way Carson went, we got no chance if we play that way in this football game. Well, listen, I've been saying this since Monday. I thought this was the right move. I do. You know, one, it's just the pile-on effect for Carson Wentz right now. It's all everybody talks about, and especially in Philadelphia. I mean, Darius Slay gives up a touchdown on a 50-yard bomb. They go, well, Carson Wentz. You know, I mean, it's everything. It's Carson Wentz's fault for everything. So there is that issue. We've talked about it. I do think he's beaten down by the pressure, the scrutiny, everything about that. And yes, the offense does stink, and maybe Jalen Hurts can give that spark, right?
The Dolphins got to their goal of winning the game because, for the second time during the starting quarterback career of rookie Tua Tagovailoa, who took over after Ryan Fitzpatrick was benched, Tagovailoa, during a game, benched, and in came Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it worked. So, now the question is, what should the Dolphins do? Brian Flores, the coach of the team, Shireen has already said, Tua is a starter. I think the leash is going to be shorter now. The more that you do the Fitzmagic routine, the quicker you're going to have people on the sidelines looking at Flores saying, when are you putting in Fitzpatrick if Tua Tagovailoa is struggling? And for Tagovailoa, the challenge is not constantly looking over at the sideline after every mistake saying, when's he going to take me out? I credit Tagovailoa for being sufficiently mentally tough to not crumble in the face of that. But I just don't. The thing that I love about this, it's great, it's different, it's fun, but it doesn't seem sustainable.
Let me also say this. Can I apologize to Devontae Adams for not having him on my top 10 wide receiver list? Because that was probably my most egregious mistake of the past year as far as football analysis.
It wasn't.
I don't know. I think it was.
Don't sell yourself short.
My lists have been pretty damn good. My draft evaluations have been pretty damn good. But he is on fire right now and playing phenomenal football.
I think right now the Vikings would say if they could undo the trade they would say we're fine because they're happy with Justin Jefferson, who's on the way up. The Bills got Diggs when he was already at or close to the top, had the ability to be one of the best receivers in the NFL, just needed to have the ball thrown his way more frequently by someone who had the ability to get him the ball more frequently. And whether it was disenchantment with the Vikings' run-based offense or disenchantment with Kirk Cousins, he recently admitted that it was not in his best interest to be in an offense that was going to run the ball so much, although I think Cousins played a role in it. But Diggs has been incredible. Look at this. First in targets with 158, first in catches with 120, and 1,459 receiving yards. 191 per game over the last 3 weeks gives him 2,105, which is significant because it's the single-season rushing record. If he gets it or gets close to it, how does he not get MVP votes, Chris? So we've focused on Mahomes and Rodgers, just like in 2012 we were focused on Peyton Manning, and then here came Adrian Peterson with the late push. I just think that if Henry can keep it going, and it is a big if, but if anyone in the NFL can do it, it's Derrick Henry.
He is going to have, I think, a legit chance to maybe flirt with 2,000. I don't know if he can get to 2,100 and the all-time record and all of that, but either way, I'm with you. He deserves to be more talked about in the conversation. And for me, when you just talk about the pure essence of MVP, Mahomes, Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Derrick Henry, they are the epitome of that. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But I'd like to see him flirt with that 2,000 and get close.
They're going to be far better off with Trevor Lawrence. But mission accomplished for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to have Trevor Lawrence. And if Trevor Lawrence is as good as advertised, the teams in the AFC South are going to have to deal with this guy for the next 10 years or longer.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I look at Trevor Lawrence and I think a lot of this is Justin Herbert. It's a very similar guy to me in a lot of ways, except this is a guy who, probably even a little more athletic than Justin Herbert in some ways. I don't know if he can throw it the same way. Herbert's pretty special throwing the football, but it's that type of guy.
The Pittsburgh Steelers will host the Baltimore Ravens, finally, we think, Wednesday afternoon, 3:40 p.m. Eastern, Week 13. Scheduling changes, so lots of early primetime football next week because of the midweek Ravens-Steelers game. And look, Chris, what happened yesterday, and we wrote a story about this that really caught fire, and within a half hour, the NFL moved the game. Baltimore players were threatening to refuse to play the game tonight. Not because of COVID-19 concerns, but because of their own physical safety resulting from the fact that they haven't been allowed to practice. They haven't been allowed to prepare. You're going to throw these guys to the wolves that are the Pittsburgh Steelers with 20 guys unavailable, with a bunch of backups and slappies thrust into play with no chance to get ready to play after being shut out of the facility for a week. They had real concerns about their own safety. They were not ready to go forward with the game, and they were considering refusing to play, and that leveraged the NFL into moving the game to Wednesday.
I had too much salt. I'm hungry now. It's a game that's going to go down in history.
It was like the scene of a movie.
I mean, if you wrote a movie about this, people wouldn't believe it. And I see him go down, and I'm like, we got to start now. Like, we just got to go out there now.
And you could see Lamar trotting back out on the field. It was, geez.
I don't want to go down the moral victories path. We lost, got beat.
See the ball, kick the ball.
Automatic talk. He did the rest. No, I was cramping. I ain't putting Paul Pierce.
Last night was awesome.
It was.
Last night was special. And there's so much. I think we budgeted the first hour of the program just to talk about this game, Chris. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, well, there is. And just to get out ahead of your conversation there, it is different to me than the Chiefs-Rams football game. That game, that had moments and plays of oh, there's a guy catching the ball. Nobody's in the screen. Touchdown. And then it was 3 plays later, the other team answers. Nobody's in the screen. Touchdown. This was at least sustained drive, smash-mouth football at times. Yes, it led to some big plays, and it led to, two teams answering each other a bunch here throughout the football game. But I didn't have I didn't have a problem with that, is what I'm saying. And you know me, I'm a fan of the 28-24 football game. That's my favorite type of game. But this was fun to watch, had a little bit of everything, still had hard-hitting defensive plays. But, oh my gosh.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.